Hey, welcome back to Talk About It Tuesday, where today's topic will be a little more somber in nature. Today we'll be talking about grief. And what I've been thinking about recently is how grief has been given a bad rap as something that must be overcome or triumphed. But I like how Viktor Frankl, a Swiss psychiatrist who survived the Nazi internment camps, put a more positive, meaningful spin on it. He said, if there is meaning in life at all, then there must be a meaning in suffering. Suffering is an ineradicable part of life, even as fate and death. Without suffering and death, human life cannot be complete. So grief, I understand, is not limited to death alone. You might also be experiencing grief because of the loss of a relationship. Maybe a breakup, an impending divorce, or a complicated divorce that has already occurred. You might be experiencing a physical injury that keeps you from pursuing your passion, and those things are also meant to be grieved. And grieve should be viewed more as a process, because even as you go through life and you think you may have conquered grief, it does represent itself over and over in different developmental stages of your life. Let's say you lost a loved one and that person is not there when your daughter gets married. Then you will be revisiting that grief, or when they graduate from high school or from college or things of that nature. And it's meant to be protected as a process instead of assigned some arbitrary number of how many days you have to grieve. A lot of people attempt to put a time limitation on grief, but that's just a misdirection, as assuming that there's a right way to grieve. But everyone is going to process grief differently. And what I've seen in practice is people coming in because of others' reactions to their grief being more distressing in their journey of grief than the event that occurred itself. So people attempt to apply logic to grief, yet it is a matter of the heart and soul. We grieve so deeply because we've loved so deeply. A world without grief would just be uninhabitable. When people apply logic to grief, it sounds like this: he's in a better place. But your internal response might be, no, he's not, because he's not here with me. And that's applying heart and soul to the grief, a more appropriate response. Another logical approach to grief might sound like this: at least she's no longer suffering. But again, that doesn't sit well with you because grief is a matter of the heart and soul. So your response might be, but I am suffering. And then the last one that seems to be the biggest cliche of all is time will heal all wounds. But your internal response might be the more appropriate one: I don't want to heal from this because that means that I have to forget, and I don't want to forget, and that's okay. People tend to apply this type of logic to grief because they don't know what to say, or they're uncomfortable with their own discomfort or your discomfort. But you can at any time politely tell them what you really need. And usually that's just for that person to listen. So as Viktor Frankl states, but there was no need to be ashamed of tears, for tears bore witness that a man had the greatest of courage, the courage to suffer. So I'll leave you with this: allow yourself the courage to grieve. It's normal, it's healthy, and it's necessary. If you become stuck in your grief, please call the wellness team. We would be honored to walk in your grief with you.